So today we're going to talk about Love Addict, Love Avoidant. It's the Pia Mellody model, and she covers it in these two books. One, her foundational book is on facing codependency, and then her secondary book that talks more specifically on this model is Facing Love Addiction. Basically, the Love Addict, Love Avoidant model is a toxic cycle of the way that we connect with other people. And I like to talk about kind of the elements, the family background, so the kind of family system that these particular Love Addict, Love Avoidants come from, how they tend to respond in crisis or in conflict within the relationship, and some kind of solution-focused clinical aspects to help them get out of the toxic cycle. So I first like to start with a basic lecture on why I feel like we kind of connect in a maladaptive way to begin with. Where are issues with connecting with others, where it comes from. Essentially, neurobiologically, we are made to connect with other human beings. There's just no denying it, because all of the chemistry to reinforce connecting with humans feels oh so good. We have that dopamine, the serotonin, the oxytocin. It basically comes out every time we have sex, when we have a deep, intimate conversation. It's saying keep connecting with other humans for obvious reasons, right? Procreation, safety in numbers. We are neurobiologically made to connect. On the other hand, we are also negatively reinforced by really yucky feelings when we feel disconnected with other people. So we have those adrenalines and the nausea when we feel like we've been rejected, or we get in arguments, or we are getting the feelings that we're not properly connecting with another human being. So foundationally, that basically starts in childhood. So we are species that are born in different circumstances. We're not horses that kind of come out of the womb and they can start running around and potentially feed themselves. We are born 100% dependent on our caretakers. And in order to, I'll move this way, dependency needs. So in order to survive, we have lots of feel-good hormones, again like the oxytocin that gets released when babies are born, to basically say keep this caretaker in our life or else. So there's basic needs, right? We need food, we need shelter. And they found these studies, for instance, during World War I, and they had knocked out a huge adult population in Russia, and they had all these kids in these Russian orphanages. All those attachment psychologists kind of did studies on them, and basically found that you can provide these things, but if you do not also provide this big one, they still die. So again, different thing where we're different from other species is we don't just require the basics, eating, sleeping, and a safe place to be. Humans, we require love. We require you're enough. We want you. Acceptance. The only problem is that there's another big issue. Human species are flawed. We fall short all the time because of our own stuff. So we basically are born 100% dependent on others, right, as babies, and have all these feel-good things saying, please them, make them happy, they're our parents, keep them in our lives, whatever it takes. But we are dealing with flawed people who fall short. So no matter what, we experience, I use big words like victimization, but essentially it's real or perceived neglect, abuse, or abandonment. So this is really hard for clients to understand, so I like to spend a few seconds on this, which is Every person that comes into my office says, I had a great life. What are you talking about? I didn't experience kind of abuse or neglect. It could be as extremely obvious as dad came in my room and touched me inappropriately. I think if we put that out to a judge and jury, we'd all raise our hands and say that was abusive. But things like this happen under the radar where we don't even notice it. For instance, mom and dad are single parents, they're divorced, or mom's really sick, dad's working overtime, and I was getting picked up from soccer practice 2 hours late, or from school, or they'd forget me sometimes. It doesn't necessarily mean that I was abused or purposefully neglected, but nonetheless, when I'm a child and 100% of my focus and energy is that I'm supposed to be pleasing these two sets of people, and they're showing me that I am not the center of the world, there must be something wrong with me. So it's just kind of understanding the difference. There's these very obvious traumas of I was touched inappropriately and I was physically harmed. Yeah, duh, traumatic. But then there's these little messages sometimes that I'm not enough. Maybe if I was better, I would get picked up on time and my parents wouldn't forget my birthday or forget about me or whatever, spend more time with me. And sometimes it has nothing to do with you, but nonetheless the messages that you start hearing are that maybe like there's these little filters, these meta messages that maybe I'm broken. Or what would you feel if a person would come in and touch you when you didn't want to be touched? I'm powerless. The world is scary. Or this is one of my favorite ones, one of my clients would say, love is conditional. So if I act this way, if I say this, if I dress like this, then I will be enough. Okay, so these are the filters, the meta messages that go through all information that we experience, everything that we interpret. So the same incident can be happening on the street and people are standing around, and because of these meta messages, we're interpreting it differently. So then it gets magnified by what I call the serendipity effect. The example I give for that, the serendipity effect, is you're born, depending on what time and place you were born in, what geographical location you're born in, what birth order you were born in, the socioeconomic class, your race. So all this is kind of basic to your family system, and then it gets magnified by the outside environment. So a basic example that I give is being a gay male in the Bible-thumping belt 30, 40 years ago is different than being a gay male being raised in the LA area now. And he could have had a family system very great and ideal, but that environment was a very, very brutal one. So that's the serendipity effect, where you just understand that environment. So the environment also kind of beats you down a little bit, and we don't like feeling like we're not enough, that love is conditional, that I'm powerless, the world's scary. Those are yucky feelings. So basically we find our escape. That's anything. That is, the very obvious thing is, let's say I'm not feeling enough and I go to a party when I'm in high school, and I find when I go drunk, I'm way cooler. And I get that social lubricant that I need to feel like I'm enough so I can, mingle. Or it could be, I feel really yucky, but when I buy new shoes or a cute dress, I feel enough. So I start shopping. Or I feel really yucky, but when I eat that chocolate cake, I get that nice little immediate release of dopamine that feels great, and I keep going at that. But essentially, we keep reaching out to these external sources to fill a need that we can't fill within ourselves because we're working out of this construct. So I want you to explore the things that you've done to seek out an external source to kind of fill a void that you can't fill within yourself. This is where addiction usually starts. Also, it can be in gambling. Well, I feel really great when I win. I feel only really good when I'm in a relationship and a man is telling me that he loves me. That's what we're going to talk about with the love addiction. So basically the bottom line is that we start operating out of getting our needs met from these external sources versus thinking that we're enough within ourselves, or even knowing that we have needs. And we start developing 3 different kind of theories in life, which is, you know what? Every time I ask to have a need met from another person, it just doesn't happen. So you know what? Screw that. I'm not needy. What am I if I'm not needy? I'm powerful. I had a client who was a gay male, and he was in the Bible thumping region, and he was tired of feeling like he wasn't enough because he felt like an outsider by these people. And he said, you know what, screw that. I am not excluded, I'm exclusive. And he worked his tail off to get into an Ivy League and started working for a Fortune 500 company. There you go. I have no needs, I'm powerful, so suck it. The other one is, you know, every time I ask to get my need met, everyone kind of falls short. So, you know what? I'm just going to meet my needs by meeting everybody else's needs. So, you know what? I don't have needs. My needs don't matter. Oftentimes when I do my groups, it's mainly the women that raise their hand for this one. They're the martyrs, the ones who just keep giving for the sake of the group, but still not filling their soul. And last but not least, it's just this bottom line belief that I can't trust anyone to meet my needs. Because I've tried and it doesn't work. All this stuff happens. So the bottom line that I want you to see is, remember, we are neurobiologically made to connect with other people. But this is all the stuff that's happening when we're trying to connect with other people. And so that is why it starts happening in a really toxic way. And the ultimate consequence of that is really messed up intimacy. And that's what we're going to talk about with the love addict, love avoidant cycle. Because really fast, intimacy is what we like to call into me, you see. Intimacy. And that means you don't just get to see a part of me, the part that I want to put forth because I'm really insecure and I just want you to see this version of me. True intimate relationships with family members, parents, friends, co-workers, or your partners, your primary partners, are supposed to fill your soul and be intimate. That means that you get to come in, the metaphor I use is like you get to come into my walk-in closet. My walk-in closet is not color coordinated and perfect. It's got dirty clothes on the floor, it's scattered. I don't just have my Sunday best suit out for you. You see all the crap. And you still accept me for it. This scares the hell out of us because of all that stuff that we have going on before that. And so we have major issues with making ourselves vulnerable so we can be seen fully and accepted fully. Because quite honestly, often we don't even accept ourselves. So we do this thing called control intimacy. What's that? We control very specifically how we manage what we show to people. What are the most famous ways, one of the most famous websites in the world? Facebook. Why? We show people exactly what they want to see, how they want to see it, when we want to see it. We go, oh look, we have 500 friends who just got to see what I had for dinner last night. but they don't know that my husband and I are going through some serious marital issues, or I'm having a lot of challenges with my kids. It's a controlled way of connecting with other people. What's the best way for communication these days, or most common way? Text messages. Because I don't want to hear the tone of your voice, I don't want to know how your day is, I just want you to pick me up at 6 o'clock tonight. Or I just want to make our plans for dinner in a week. So we've got that going on. All right. The other thing that we got going on is, big word is called love addiction. So a lot of people get turned off by it. Look, all I want everyone to know with this model is that it's just these two people find each other and they start operating out of their own wounds, and it creates a very toxic cycle. The most extreme versions of these toxic cycles are maybe 2 addicts, maybe 1 sex addict and 1 alcoholic, and we're talking physical altercations, pathological and chronic infidelity, major toxicity. On the far other end of the spectrum, we just have 2 people who maybe had a relatively happy marriage until it got sprinkled with a little bit of crises issues, which really brought this stuff up to the surface. And before you know it, we have maybe 1 person cheating on the other, or maybe 1 person abusing some kind of substance or shopping or eating or something as an outlet, and they're having marital issues. Okay, so there's 2 extreme versions, and then everyone in between. I'm trying to help you understand how it all can be applied. So again, this is the Love Addict, Love Avoidant model. There's 3 ways of attaching according to Pia Mellody. So there's first, and I will be attaching this sheet, but I'm looking at this one right here. I'll put them on the website. But basically, when you're born, you're supposed to made to be feel like you're whole and you're enough. So your parent's supposed to love you, and I'm on the healthy attachment. Your parent's supposed to love you, but let you know, go do your own thing. You know, like, I love you and I want you and you're great, but go see the world, go be your own person. I'll be back here to love you when you screw up, as we always do, and help you through that process. Okay? So that's a healthy attachment. Then there is what tends to create the love avoidant, which is the middle one. Now, what commonly when I was working in my treatment centers, what you're going to see, what you tend to see, the most extreme versions are, remember, I was dealing with addicts, and so they were often raised by one or both parents being addicts. So this particular parent, they're in, let's say, an unhappy marriage. They're personally not getting their needs met. Like I said, from all that stuff I did before, they don't know how to get their needs met, but they get this unconditional love from their child. So they don't know how to get their need met from one of their spouses for whatever reason. They work too much, they're really busy, they're sick, they're addicts, they don't know how to give love or show love, but they are not servicing each other's needs. So what does the parent do? Usually it's the mom, overly enmeshed with the child. So it's not, oh, go and do your world. It's like, don't leave me, stay here. Stay here and keep servicing my needs. And the most extreme versions are written out in a book. There's a book by Ken Adams. It's called Silently Seduced. He uses really strong words here, like covert incest. But it's this concept that basically your parent makes you their partner. So this 2 things happen. First, the child, remember, we do whatever we're reinforced to do as a child, and we are biologically made to want to please our parents. So the tough problem is, I'm reinforced to care for you and need you in my life, but at the same time, there's a part of me that wants to go see the world and be my own person. So what do I feel? I feel choked and smothered. So the love avoidant has a fear of intimacy and a very underlying fear of abandonment. So it's this really unfortunate catch-22 where I need to be in a relationship with someone, because that's what I'm good at and that's what I'm reinforced to do. But don't get too close to me because I don't want you to need me so much. Because I have all these wounds from being too needed as a child, and it's smothering. Because I just wanted to go out and play with my friends on the street. I didn't want to have to take care of my mom. I don't want to have to feel that pressure to call her every night. So there's this enmeshment that creates this fear of intimacy. So you hear that? It's this very unfortunate catch-22. Conversely, the love addict, for whatever reason, the family system usually is that it's usually a girl and the dad overworks, or again, he's emotionally unavailable, but she feels it's either literally happened where she was abandoned, where maybe parents divorced and dad took off, or he was busy doing affairs, or he was busy working too many hours, or busy with his addiction, but they had a sense of being abandoned and rejected. So they're constantly operating out of this fear of, somebody tell me that I'm enough. Somebody stay in my life, be in my life, and stop leaving me. Because that is the only time that I feel good enough, is when I'm getting the attention. Now often the love addict too, at some point, maybe dad left and they find in their middle school or high school age that they're good at being seductive and manipulative to get the attention of men. And they go, or men doing it to women, and they go, ooh, okay, wait. So I can get this guy to kind of pawn over me, and it feels so good to have him want to call me and be around me, and I get really reinforced to have these needy men need me so much, and I feel free and wonderful. So these love addicts always have to be in a relationship, because who are they and what are they outside this relationship? So they constantly operate out of fear of abandonment and rejection. So that is how they are filtering all issues. All right, so the next things that I just want to show is this is in the book, this is the cycle that happens with the love addict, love avoidant. And I'll try to give some examples. So basically, they find each other. This is the beautiful thing that Pia Mellody, when she was working at these treatment centers, she just kept finding these couples that were in these toxic cycles. And she found that their behaviors were so predictable. She identified one as the one that tends to be the love avoidant, identified the other as the other one that operates out of fear of abandonment and rejection, which is the love addict, and they would find each other, and it was explosive. And she kind of basically charted it out. And she says basically here that this is what happens. They first meet, and it is mind-blowingly wonderful. Why? Because basically, remember, the love avoidant, all his value, I say he for the love avoidant and the she for love addict, but it can obviously apply to anything. But basically, love addict, love avoidant, and so they meet each other. And it's amazing, because there's this unconscious energy that they're putting out usually, and that's what I really do a lot of work with my clients to see, is this unconscious energy of this woman who's a love addict, who's not enough except for being in a relationship where someone is telling them enough. What are they doing? They're constantly putting an energy out to another person saying, tell me I'm enough. Show me that I'm enough. Prove to me that I'm enough. And they find a love avoidant who walks around in this world going, I'm no one if I'm not caring for somebody. Because remember, they've been overly enmeshed with their parents, and they've been reinforced to need to be needed. So they find each other, and it's explosive. Because the love avoidant finally has found his purpose in life, right? He found his needy, overly needy partner who needs to be reinforced with how wonderful she is and how much he's never going to leave her. Because again, it felt so good for him to care for his parent that he's like, hi, because he's got his needy partner. And his needy partner's over here saying, oh, thank God, I finally found my release. I've got my savior who's finally here to tell me that I'm enough and complete me and say all these lovely, wonderful things that he's never going to leave and he's never felt this way without anybody else, and very whimsical. Lots of twitterpation, lots of dopamine going on. Well, sometimes that can last for years. Sometimes it can last for months, and you can probably think of relationships where that's the case. Because what starts happening is the love addict starts kind of clenching, metaphorically, her claws into him. And what does that trigger in the love avoidant? That overly neediness, that suffocation, that, oh God, I mean, need me, but don't need me. I'm dying here. Like, so it met an initial need of needing me, and I felt good, but oh my God, I just want to get away. So it's triggering that childhood wound in him, and I want to care for you, but I just want to go out and play with my friends. You know, I want to go be my own person. Because remember, a healthy relationship is an interdependent one. The thing I like to explain is there's two different ways to do a relationship. There's a codependent one, and then there's an interdependent one. This isn't going. So, and I have this on my website under healthy couples. But basically, here's person A, person B, and here's the relationship. Do you see this? They're enmeshed. They don't exist without the relationship taking up parts of them. So parts of what their values are, what their identities are, what they want to be, what their passions are, their friend circles, they don't exist without the other person. Whereas an interdependent relationship is here's person A, here's person B, and here's the relationship. So I have my own values, my own goals, my own friends, my own passions. So does this person. And we both nurture and feed this living and breathing thing called our relationship. And the problem with love addict versus love avoidant versus an interdependent relationship, not a codependent relationship, is what's the problem with this? Well, what if the relationship starts going bad? Because by the way, we are flawed human beings and we screw up and we fall short all the time. So of course a relationship's going to go bad, right? That's the obvious part. What's the problem when you take the relationship out? What are you seeing here? What's happening? We're losing ourselves, which triggers extreme fear and worry. Versus again, if we're interdependent, had our own values, goals, friends, passions, and the relationship went away, what would happen here? We go, oh, God, that hurts because I invested a lot of time and energy into this person, and we enriched a really great relationship, and it's really sad, but okay, I've not lost myself, I've lost my relationship, but not myself. The love addict and love avoidant are so intertwined and so defined by each other that they've lost themselves. So what starts happening? They start lashing out in anxiety and fear and survival. And it gets really ugly. So basically what happens is the love avoidant starts feeling choked because he's being needed too much. The one thing he was wanting more in life, most in life, was to be needed. That's finally happening. And it triggers his suffocation. Oh, get away, stop nagging me, stop needing me. And what usually happens is he goes out, and it's at that time where he either starts seeking intensity outside the relationship because he's not getting his need met from this relationship anymore. So he'll have an affair with his secretary, he'll have multiple affairs, he'll go seek out a substance use, he'll buy fast cars, he'll overwork, who knows? The addict feels him pulling away. So what do you think she does? Clenches tighter. But no, don't you remember? You were never going to leave me. How could you? And they're both in survival mode at that time. So you're not even speaking to people in their rational, basic sense. You're speaking to two people in survival mode because they've we're not just talking losing a relationship, we're talking about losing their entire identity here. And they get into this extremely poisonous cycle where she clings tighter, he pulls away farther, tighter, farther, and either what happens is the relationship disrupts in a much more chaotic way than, let's say, an interdependent relationship would disrupt. And either what happens is they pull away, they calm down, but then they are drawn back together again to start cycle number 2, cycle number 3, cycle number 4. But again, repeat these vicious cycles of, again, show me I'm enough. Okay, thank God you need me. Oh, but stop choking me. No, I need you. And in various ways. So again, the most extreme examples are, let's say, in sex addiction or substance abuse addiction, where they're out having multiple affairs. The partners are kind of suspicious and don't know. There's a lot of gaslighting going on. I have a blog on that one. And they're still come back together again. Oh, I'm in recovery. Everything's fine. Okay, yeah, I have needs. I'm going to be more assertive in my own needs and develop my own life. And then it happens again. And they come back again. The most, or an under the radar example of the love addict, love avoidant is two people who kind of on the surface seem fine, seem whatever, not a big deal, but then stuff happens. You know, there's a death in the family. They have multiple kids, which is a very tough transition to get into. And the, love addict keeps looking for the love avoidant to keep telling her that she's enough because she's not feeling enough, because she's sad from the death in the family. There's kids and she's not quite getting the affirmation and validation that she needs. She's not working anymore. And the love avoidant is like, you're not meeting my needs anymore. You're not telling me that I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. So you know what? I'm going to go get it from somewhere else. And they go having an affair with somebody else outside the relationship. And then the love addict knows that it's happening, starts freaking out. I'll do anything. Let's just save this marriage. Please, please, please. And explosion. And if they don't get to the core of these childhood wounds, of the fact that they are constantly making decisions and choices out of fear of intimacy and or fear of abandonment and rejection, this cycle keeps going. So the thing that I really like to do for, let's say, the love addicts, well, let's start with the love avoidant. So these love avoidants, because of their backgrounds, are scared as hell to have true intimacy. They always keep people at arm's length because to show themselves and fully accept others into their lives is to be swallowed up and smothered. So it's really helping them understand that, A, and then B, help create healthy boundaries around, I can love you, but I don't define you. And I have 100% right to go out and have a separate life, go do the things that I need to do that fill my soul, within the boundaries of our monogamous relationship, if that's what you choose to have. But to be intimate with someone does not mean you need to be suffocated and overwhelmed and over-needed. So it's kind of retraining that. That obviously takes a process. For the love addict, they're operating out of only another relationship, another person can define my values, that I'm good enough, that I'm worth it. They are constantly operating out of scarcity of being enough. So I strongly recommend all work related to Brené Brown, who basically asserts that that fear and shame are what stop us from having healthy relationships and have major issues with living and loving. Because once we start learning that basically we are our only determiners, and if we have a higher power is the determiner of that we're flawed, but we are worthy human beings and we're constantly worthy of true, intimate, vulnerable love and connection. And no relationship gets to tell us that, no paycheck gets to tell us that, no dress size gets to tell us that. That's when we start losing our love addiction type tendencies. And then when we have somebody else who says, I'm looking at you and I just don't want to be with you anymore, we don't go into crisis mode. We kind of go, oh, that hurts, but I got it because I have this whole other life and you don't define me, so enjoy. Just go do your thing. And conversely, if caring for somebody and needing to be needed as a love avoidant, if that doesn't define me and establish my value system, and somebody's too needy and doesn't respect your boundaries, you can safely say, I'm sorry, you're not respecting my boundaries. I don't need to be needed anymore. So either we can just coexist in a healthy way, or we can't. And that tends to be the system. Is there any, there's like 3 minutes left. Do you guys have any questions, spots in my presentation, thoughts, or?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when one or the other of these start making these changes like you suggested?
Mm-hmm.
What is their partner, like if the love avoidant starts, taking in some of this information that you talked about, making themselves separate, then how does the love addict react to that, and how can they get through that?
Well, if they're still in love addiction mode, they're going to operate out of fear. And the most common thing that happens, and I'm glad you're asking that, is love addicts are master manipulators. Where love avoidants are master seducers because they've learned how to do that in their enmeshed partnership with their parent. Mm-hmm. So for instance, let's say that couple who the partner started having an affair and she's a love addict trying to cling tightly to him. She would say things like, oh, I'll do anything to get you back. I'll save this marriage at any cost. That's truly manipulative because that's not true. No one should save any relationship at any cost. It should be, you can come back to my marriage if A, you want to stay monogamous to me, B, you want to make amends for the harm that you've caused to me, and C, we can create a mutually respectful exchange. So what tends to happen is, because love addicts are operating out of fear, they'll manipulate the situation by kind of saying anything they need to say to get them to stay there.
So manipulation is actually desperation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And actually manipulation, the way I like to define it is it's when you're out of control and you're losing the one thing that defines you, it's your way of controlling it.
Right.
So I'll present whatever I need to present to you to maintain control.
And they're going to
be so scared.
They may keep upping that behavior to keep trying to.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So they'll look like they're running on a treadmill, and they'll appear like they are giving their heart and soul and anything, but they usually have this very strong pent up resentment, and they're very passive aggressive.
And they're victims.
Because they're still not getting their needs met, because they don't even know what they are.
Okay. Can two love addicts or two love avoidants be in a relationship?
Yes, but as you can imagine, it doesn't tend to work as magically as the love addict, love avoidant. And I'm glad you said that too, because actually in the time frame of a 10, 15, 20-year marriage, you actually can alter your status. 1 minute you tend to be more the love addict, the other one, or the other good point is that depending on who you meet, it'll trigger. So let's say a woman who normally they had a parent who they felt kind of abandoned them, and a parent who was too clingy and needy of them, depending on who they meet outside in the world, might trigger the love avoidant tendencies in them or the love addict type tendencies in them, depending on how needy they are and how don't get so close to me, you're suffocating me. So, did you have any other things?
I don't think so.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Very nice.
Well done.
I'm glad you guys got it.
Wow, well done, well done. Can I have a copy of that you wrote on?